Faraway Wanderers. Chapter 73, The Rules. As soon as he saw Gu Xiang, Feng Xiaofeng went nuts, screeching and throwing himself forward. "Rotten girl! I'll slaughter you!" Gu Xiang went ouch, patting her chest with a fake smile. "You'll scare me to death, Feng. No one's teamed up with you today. To bully me, a lady you have absolutely no lenience." "Brother Feng, calm down a bit." Zhao Jing quickly shouted at Feng Xiaofeng. "So many of us are watching. If she really is a bad person, would she still be able to escape?" Hearing their scrupulousness, Cao Whining knew that they were going to put on a show about her. With a strength he wasn't sure where came from, he falteringly got up, then put out an arm to block Gu Xiang's front, ignoring his dull chest pain and coughing. Everyone, Xiang has always been naive, never able to hide the words of her mind, but she is still a junior. Even if she has misspoken in any way, I request that you seniors acknowledge that she's still young and ignorant, and not stoop to her level. He turned to Feng Xiaofeng once more, enunciating his words. "As for you, Hero Feng, this Cao has something to say." That day, Hero Shen met with misfortune, the lapis armor was stolen, and the hearts of those in Dongting were panicked. Zhang Chengling had indeed been with us, but the one that brought him away was Brother Zhou, and he did so in Hero Zhao's presence, who didn't obstruct it at all. We had to take care of it for him. This Feng fellow cannot distinguish between right and wrong, as he had joined forces with a group of poisonous scorpions to hunt us down. Were we wrong to defend ourselves? Gu Xiang nimbly stuck out her head from behind him, pointing at Feng Xiaofeng. "It's true. See how he conducts himself? He looks exactly like everyone else owes him 800 strings of coins, wanting to fight when nothing's even been said. Who knows if he's with that bunch of black-clothed villains?" Feng Xiaofeng was extraordinarily furious, but when it came to eloquentness, he couldn't contend with her. Right as the word "you" had bounced out of his mouth, a pile of words had bounced out of hers like jumping beans. The girl put both hands on her hips, her face full of slyness, and then pointed at him. "What about me? My master gave me that brat to look after, and bringing him along was way too much trouble. He was thinking that everyone else is just like you lot, with your shamelessness being something the whole world knows about. You and that, surname you for fish or Gui for turtle or whatever, who knows what temple you two came out of? People don't have signs on their faces for whether they're good or bad, but looking at you, you don't seem like anything good. What are you trying to find Zhang Chengling so badly for? You're the same kind of trash as you." Humph. She rolled her eyes, the spitting image of a child throwing a temper. In just a few words, she had also dragged Yu Kaiyufeng into this. The man had currently turned into an old rat crossing the street that everyone was shouting and kicking at, so, regardless of whether something was true or false or a frame-up or a setup, there would be no issue with pushing it onto his head. Feng Xiaofeng was taken aback, anger dizzying his head. He hadn't expected this to go here. As expected, as soon as she said that, many people started giving him poor looks. Ye Bai huffed coldly. "Your type is born not being the stuff for physical arts. You couldn't even grasp 6-harmony spiritual cultivation, so what fight could you put up? How could anything nice to hear ever come out of Ye Bai's mouth?" Someone laughed at this scene. Gao Shanu roared, then smashed a rock onto the ground, but he was blind. What use would a bit of brute strength have? Looking at the master-servant pair, Cao Whining thought them to be pitiful. Perhaps due to his injury, he felt especially fatigued, looking at each individual before him not like they were people, but base-growing plants listening to the rain on the wind, praising those above and stomping on those below, because, no matter what, their own heads weren't getting stomped, so they were happy to watch the excitement. He tugged at Gu Xiang. "Xiang, let's go. I'll take over." She didn't say much, obediently getting towed away by him. He turned to Mo Huayang. "Shifu, this disciple is unfilial, and cannot obey you. In my lifetime, I have no sort of great prospects. Working myself hard won't get me fame. So I'm simply taking advantage of my youth to change course. Maybe I'll be an old farmer, relying on some hard swings of tools to grow a lot of little somethings, more than others could. When the time comes, I'll be sure to have you taste that freshness firsthand every year. Mo Huayang looked somewhat less stormy, but he still frowned as he looked at Goose Yang, feeling that despite the girl's looks being good, there was constantly an unspeakable evil about her. She didn't look like a woman from a decent family. Yet, when he went to talk, Mo Huaikong started making loud noises out of his windpipe. Ha ha ha, I knew you were a hopeless brat. When you have a fat son with your little wife, I'll be his grand shishu. You'll have to treat me to wine on his 1 month. Cao whining laughed dryly a few times, thinking, Shishu, your imagination is really getting too far ahead. Goose Yang's face was a bit heated, but she let out a sigh of relief, knowing that this blockade of theirs was over with. Right as they made to leave, someone out of the crowd began to speak. It was the man that had always been at Zhao Jing's side, who had flashed his weapon when the poisonous scorpion struck. There was a blade scar on his face that slanted down diagonally, dragging down dangerously to his neck. Please stay a minute, young lady, he said. This humble one has a question. Goose Yang turned her head, listening to him slowly continue on. Didn't you all notice that the spot she just came out of is somewhere on Fenja Mountain? She trespassed on Ghost Valley, so why haven't the ghosts done anything yet? The blood left her face in an instant. I'm thinking that there's 2 possibilities, he kept going. One is that she has an interesting status. 2 is that when she went in, no one discovered her, but why would a lone girl going in such a place not be found? His words could not be any clearer. Even Cao whining understood them. He looked over in astonishment, staring at her in a daze and unable to speak. She released his hand, then took a step back. And another. Zhao Jing narrowed his eyes, purposefully clapping the scarred man on the shoulder. Hey, what are you saying? He said, loud. She's only so old. What kind of person could she possibly be? The man smiled. Knowing a form and face isn't knowing the heart. Zhao Jing pat his head, thinking. Well, isn't this convenient? People of the valley have a prominent mark on their lower backs. Were there nothing but us menfolk around, nothing could be done, but heroines of Ime happen to be present. You women won't need to observe propriety, so you can go to a place where no one else is to check. We'll be able to trust the heroine's statement. Hearing this, the nearby sect leader of Ime nodded, giving no refute. Cao whining heard nothing, only staring at her. Once he saw her expression, he understood everything. In his impression, she had forever been a careless, happy-go-lucky young lady that knew no schemes. Never before had he seen such a wan, dismal, dark look on her face. Her smile was gone. Her big, limpid eyes looked to be missing the vigor within them, having only a cold maliciousness. She looked not at him, but at the scarred man, genuinely resembling a ghost. He recalled what Wen Kexing had once said to him that night, even if she might not be like what you're imagining, even if, you will find out that you don't actually recognize her? How had he answered? In that instant, he was a bit distracted. He had vowed to Wen Kexing, don't worry. I know her, of course. Then, she moved. Her figure was extremely agile, and with but a wink, she overcame Cao whining to come before the crowd, the scarred man bearing the brunt of it. No one had thought that she would have the guts to attack right in front of everyone. The man saw that the arrival had no good intentions, subconsciously drawing back. She laughed coldly, abruptly raising her hand. 2 iron chains shot straight out of her sleeves, going for his face. He bent backwards to dodge, but the chains seemed to have souls, directly winding around his neck. Hell has no entrance for you to charge into, she said with sinister tone. If you want to blame me, go ahead. Following that, she yanked the chains backwards with force, attempting to take off his head at once. Zhao Jing bellowed angrily, unsheathing his sword to stab her. She couldn't dodge, posturing like her life depended on it, waiting for the wide-open opportunity of his thrust to throw out a hidden weapon. Osyang! Cao Whining shouted. Caring for nothing, he flew out in front, obstructing Zhao Jing's sword with a clang. He grabbed her hand that was tugging the chains. Let go. Let's go back home. Osyang, let go of him, now. She startled, involuntarily loosening her hand. The chains fell to the ground. Unawares, she was bodily hauled several paces away by him, after which she mumbled, back home. He sucked in a deep breath. Back home. Zhao Jing sneered. Very good. Since you're a little valley demoness, there's no need to quibble. We're not letting you come and go as you please. Before he was quite finished, a strong gale attacked him from behind. He dodged, flustered, and turned to look. It was Ye Bai he was holding Dragon's back, which wasn't unsheathed, yet had still forced him back from that swing. The man didn't look at him, only speaking to Cao Whining. The friend you just talked about is a brat with the surname Zhou, right? Take me to find him, and I'll send you both elsewhere. Everyone was shocked by his act, watching blanking as he was about to bring Goose Yang and Cao Whining away without ever getting off his horse. You dare to leave, Cao Whining. Mo Huayang finally spoke up. Cao Whining's back stiffened. He stood, turned, and opened his mouth. Shifu. You go with them, the other said coldly, and from now on, you are no longer a part of my Qingfeng sword sect. Fall into the way of evil, and in the future, I will send myself down the same path of principle that all martial artists do, and we will be irreconcilable. Cao Whining's form seemed to weigh, and Goose Yang quickly reached out to support him. Think this over well, Mo Huayang said. Don't allow one mistake to lead to infinite sorrow. Cao Whining stood there, blank, for a very, very long time. Goose Yang felt him grasp her hand for a split second, release it, then hold it even tighter. Shifu, I pledge to a friend that for my entire life, from that moment until my death, counting every single second, there would never be any time when I would let Osyang down. You've taught me since childhood to do what I say I will, and do it to completion. I can't go back on my words in regards to her family. Mo Huayang looked ashen. He clenched his jaw for a long while, then coldly laughed, giving off 3 successive goods. He abruptly turned, as if he didn't want to look at him anymore. Cao Whining knelt, Goose Yang frowned, hesitating a bit, then knelt alongside him. The former kowtowed 3 times in Mo Huayang's direction, and there was an audible sound every time his forehead landed on the ground, blood promptly showing up on it. This disciple is unfilial, he cried out, eyes shot red. After that, he turned to Mo Huaikong and kowtowed thrice again, gritting his teeth, yet unable to say a word. Mo Huaikong peered at him, antsy and wanting to say something, but also feeling like everything he could say would be wrong. All he could do was curse furiously. Hell! What is this? Goose Yang then helped him up. Ye Bai was waiting at the side. Mo Huayang turned back around, eyes flashing. Whining, he called, voice softened, seeming somewhat fragile. Cao Whining's heart skipped a beat. Shifu. The other took a deep breath. He hesitated for a while, then beckoned for him. Come over here. I have a few things to say to you. Ye Bai creased his brow, disdaining this bothersome master-disciple pair. He watched as Cao Whining was already going over, then turned his head away. This eternal parting had nothing to do with him, really. Cao Whining took a few steps forwards, then knelt, using his knees to crawl up before him. Mo Huayang looked at him with complicated emotions, shut his eyes, then put his hand on his head with a sigh, as if he was still a little child. In your generation, I've cherished you the most. The other choked up. Shifu, I. He couldn't speak further, as the scene of tender emotion suddenly changed its tune. No one had expected that after Mo Huayang finished saying that sentence, his hand that was caressing the top of Cao Weining's head would suddenly exert its strength without warning, pressing down upon his crown with the force of 10,000 caddies. Cao Weining immediately spurted blood from all 7 orifices. Goose Yang screamed, and blood splashed onto Mo Huaikong. The latter couldn't react, staring wide-eyed at the one that was still kneeling, and after Mo Huayang let go, Cao Weining collapsed to the side without a sound. Mo Huayang hooded his eyes. My Qingfeng sword sect, ever since its initiation by its founding master, has always assumed the duty of rectifying righteousness, and upholding the 4 virtues. Never before has a traitorous disciple come out of it. This Mo is ashamed that my instruction had not been to standard, to have produced such an unorthodox, unfilial one. I had no choice but to tidy up the sect. In order to apologize to the world, I ask you all. Mo Huaikong looked at him incredulously. I'll kill you, he roared in rage. The other paused for a short moment, then finished the rest of his words, no change in expression. To mock me? Goose Yang abruptly threw herself at him, looking to have gone insane. In that moment, her mind was a blank expanse, and she had only one thought left: kill. I'll kill you all, she shrieked. I'll kill every single one of you. Quick to react, Ye Bai darted over, then hand-chopped her gently on the back of her neck. Her body fell limply, and he caught her. Coldly sweeping his eyes across everyone in front of him, he ultimately settled onto Mo Huayang. You all heard what she said. No one responded to him. He nodded on his own, holding her atop the horse. This humble one has gained insight, he threw out, then left, kicking up no dust. Goose Yang was unconscious, but a tear still fell from the corner of her eye. As it was, with the way this world worked, the righteous and the demonic could not coexist, they cannot even talk. He was righteous, while she was demonic. They were destined to never be together. Those were the rules. Rules were set by majorities of the world's people, and those who complied, yet wanted to rebel, had to have patience, throw caution to the wind, and bravely go against that overwhelming majority. Succeed, and one could jump out. Fail, and Lao Meng had no idea that the things he had gotten ready were no longer needed. Surprisingly, he genuinely had prepped the dowry Wen Kexing had asked for, filling up the ground of a courtyard with it in a way that had something of a 10 li worth of red adornments feel. Precious braziers for posterity, twin bowl sets for posterity, mahogany trunks, wardrobes, plus all sorts of makeup cases and jewelry boxes, implements of gold and silver in full gamut, and even a few sets of phoenix crowns and red dresses were all there. When Kexing had gotten to his age without ever witnessing any sort of wedding, nor ever drinking a drop of wedding wine. He was learning for the first time that new brides were really so painstakingly cared for, browsing over it all with a lot of enthusiasm. He also purposefully held the dowry art aloft, standing there and carefully studying it for a time, after which he came to a conclusion. This artist is good, but not as good as the unique style of a friend of mine. Lao Meng was following ingratiatingly behind him. Do you mean to have it switched out, Valley Master? He quickly questioned. When Kexing inclined his head to look at him, smiling falsely as he put the art back, then randomly sat down upon a mahogany trunk nearby. Do you know what phrase I just remembered? The other's heart jumped, feeling that it wasn't going to be a good one. However, he heard Wen Kexing say, taking off your pants to let out a fart is doing too much. Lao Meng raised his head, gaze crossing with Wen Kexing's. A short moment later, he lowered it again. This subordinate does not understand what you mean, Valley Master. End chapter. Faraway Wanderers. Chapter 74, War. When Kexing watched him silently, gaze like an owl, as if he was about to pierce into his core. Lao Meng suddenly felt a little panicked, automatically going over all his own mental calculations from start to finish. Rebellion. He hadn't started planning for that only just recently, but for a long time beforehand. Back when Sun Ding and Xuefang began to overtly and covertly fight, he had already started to scheme and make preparation. The hanged ghost pilfering the key, betraying the valley, and leaving had practically been an opportunity given to him by the heavens. He still remembered how the man before him had gotten the position of Valley Master 8 years back. He had merely been a young, unknown man that Lao Meng had never taken notice of, only thinking that the delicate-featured fellow being able to bring his little girl to live in a place like this was something rather amazing. The former Valley Master of the time was dissimilar to the present one, and had honed in on flashiness. Yamahal hadn't even been as desolate as it now was, frequently full of song and dance. The old master seemed to have appreciated him. In what way had he appreciated him, though? Lao Meng wasn't certain, as back in those years, no one had dared to say anything. Regardless, he had been transferred over to be a close attendant of Yamahal, occasionally giving him pointers in martial arts when in a good mood. When Kexing would show up behind the master from time to time, standing in a set spot, never speaking too much, and always following the rules, like a wooden man that didn't talk or move. Yet, it was this wooden man that had, one night, set the insides of Yamahal into a sky-soaring blaze, those organ-tearing, miserable screeches seeming to linger around its roof beams for 3 days afterwards. Silently bearing with it for 3 years, one half of the former master's attendants went with him. Anybody that opposed would get rent apart, thrown into a fire, and roasted well the day of. Like so, killing a few would make the rest have no rebuke, no matter how stupid they were. Xuefang ate a maiden's heart every month, and Sun Ding liked to drink wine paired with human blood, but even they both thought that that night had been a nightmare. The blood within the hall had looked to be smeared all over. The former Valley Master had howled for over 2 shishans. Some said that when Kexing had sliced him into pieces, staunching the bleeding all while he cut, then forced him to eat those pieces. Others said that he had skinned him, peeling him whole while he still lived. When this man came out from inside, he had been wearing a bright red robe. At that moment, no one could tell whether it had been red to begin with, or had been dyed with fresh blood. His face, forever wooden and placid, had shown a smile for the first time in front of everyone. "He's dead. I got rid of him," they had heard him say. "Anyone unconvinced can come fight me, but otherwise, be good and obey from here on out." After that came a war, a royale, a massacre, and then the dust finally settled. There was no sort of conspiracy. This was exactly how to survive in the valley. The strong were respected, and that was it. When Kexing trusted no one, except for the girl he had raised, so on his second day of being the Valley Master, he had immediately ordered for the extra people of Yamahal to be cleared away. In the valley, no living thing apart from Goose Yang was allowed to come within 3 chi of him without permission. He was temperamental, unreadable, and of ever mysterious whereabouts. Over those 8 years, secrets got all the deeper. At times, Lao Meng would even get the illusion that the man, from the strands of his hair down to his fingernails, did not have a single area about him that wasn't permeated with the horrific stench of blood. He was a madman through and through, born to slaughter. For that reason, Xuefang and the rest preferred to fight amongst themselves before anything else, refusing to enrage the lunatic when their wings were not yet developed, and they still could not kill him in one blow. Coming to this day, Lao Meng believed that he had since made proper preparations. Everything was ready, except for one little thing. Inside the valley's unrest, while the Ghost Master had wandered outside without return, Lao Meng had not remained idle. Now, he grasped control over 70% of the valley's personnel. Even if this man truly did have 3 heads and 6 arms, even if he truly did have divine, peerless arts, Zhao Jing was nothing to be worried about, as once he caught Xuefang and got the key in his hand, he would have his goal. Thus, Lao Meng settled himself, then raised his head to meet Wen Kexing's gaze. "Please give enlightenment, Valley Master," he said, unworried. The news of Zhao Jing's group fighting beneath Fenja Mountain had not only reached Green Bamboo Ridge, but had quickly been delivered to the Scorpion's ears in that small town. In the middle of listening to a 16-year-old girl singing in a tea house, he frowned upon hearing this, feeling that this was an unexpectedly thorny issue. The praying mantis hunted the cricket, only for a siskin to be behind it. But if the mantis shrank back at the approach of battle, quitting and putting down its claws, that would be a bother, too. He pondered for a short moment, then spoke into the arrival's ear for a spell, who withdrew with their order. Grabbing a handful of melon seeds, he ate them quite merrily while he kicked a nearby poisonous scorpion with his toes. She sang well, so reward her. The old guy playing the cheen wasn't bad, either. Reward them both. The girl thanked him for the money, helped up her grandpa that was shakily holding a hyukin, and slowly left. They went all the way to the outside of the door, after which the elder took out the majority of the money he had just been given and passed it to her. Once he opened his mouth, the voice that came out was extremely slow, hoarse, and aged. "Good child, take this and buy some snacks. Rest your throat well." She refused it. "That won't do, mister. You've constantly been giving money to me these days, but what are you going to do, yourself?" As it turned out, these two were not an actual grandparent-grandchild pair. "Cough, just take it, the old man said, waving his hand. "I am an old one that has a today, but no tomorrow. Why should I demand payment? I can just scrape by with what I need. Your father is still sick, and can only come out to perform with you if he's cured quickly, yes. Furthermore, if it wasn't for your good singing, who would watch a decrepit elder like me play?" Her face went red, as she really was pressed for cash. She stood there at a loss, not sure what she ought to do. The elder didn't give her an opportunity to refuse it, turning to slowly leave with his hyukin. As soon as he was somewhere that no one else was, the old man that looked to have a foot in the grave suddenly became invigorated. His mudded, slack gaze focused, brightening unusually, and his back straightened out where was even a bit of that hobbling look at. He was the scorpion tailing Zhou's issue. When the scorpion had lowered his voice to speak, bystanders couldn't have heard, but Zhou's issue's strong hearing had caught it clearly. He was a tiny bit surprised. He hadn't expected that Zhao Jing's group would fight amongst themselves before even getting on the mountain, which made the situation even more complicated. It signified that the minds of those inside that formation weren't united, and that there might be many that each harbored their own motives, getting ready to do something rotten. For the sake of compelling them to be on the same page, the scorpion was sending his scorpions to sneak attack while pretending to be Ghost Valley's people. Zhou's issue lightly furrowed his brow. He thought about Wen Kexing's circumstances in the ridge right now, as recently, there had seemed to be an atypical calm in the valley. That when Trash hadn't had anything happen to him, right? He suddenly wanted to throw the scorpion away and head straight for Fenja Mountain, but he was still Zhou's issue, after all. That notion merely flashed past his brain, then was suppressed. The present game board was in chaos, and all the factions were already on it, aside from the poisonous scorpions. Hastily mixing in with it would instead make him liable to be unclear on its shape, so it would be better to just follow said scorpion. That guy, since he had been the Ghost Valley master for so many years yet still had all his limbs, he should generally have some capability. Zhou's issue unconsciously streaked his fingers across the strings of his hyukin, making a faint sound, and then his figure disappeared into the alley. The head scorpion had come prepared, getting more than 30 poisonous scorpions to ambush Zhao Jing's group. Clearly, he had long been planning to fish in troubled waters, having no sort of good intentions, because those 30 had ghost face tattoos patterned on them, the ink for which had been separately obtained from Lao Meng and Sun Ding. That was some real forward thinking. Zhao Jing's group had just endured many misfortunes. Mo Huaikong had nearly come to blows with Mo Huayang, only barely able to be held back. Everyone was unsettled, and then, all of a sudden, a group of uninvited guests arrived, catching them badly off guard. The people in black, who had come out of who knew where, were extremely cunning, both battling and retreating, not getting rashly tangled up. If someone couldn't be beaten, they ran, but it wouldn't take them long to take advantage of someone's inattention to pop out again. The scarred man took the clothes off one's corpse, exposing the ghost face that the scorpion had deliberately made up beneath the crowd's staring eyes. Zhao Jing frowned, then looked at Mo Huayang. Sect leader Mo, the time is now. The problems between us should be discussed a bit later. We're all very sad over you losing your beloved disciple, but this is a period of life and death for the martial world. I hope that you'll weigh the situation at large. Mo Huayang thought about it. Feeling that he could not put on a rival stage play to life and death of the martial world for right now, he silently acquiesced to Zhao Jing's collaboration. The group of heroes that had dawdled for so long at the mountain's base finally remembered what they were supposed to be doing, and with an order from Zhao Jing, they fought their way up the mountain. In order to handle Wen Kexing, Lao Meng happened to have transferred the majority of his manpower to the vicinity of Yamahal, practically allowing those warriors to enter a no-man's land. The war, given a push by the Scorpion, had finally begun. Behind Yamahal, Wen Kexing was heavily surrounded. He grinned, thinking that Lao Meng really had a high evaluation of him, to confront his foe like so. Those beside him, once cowed by the Valley Master's might, had noticed the strife and changed sides. That was how Wen Kexing himself had killed the former master. In Ghost Valley, if there was no even matchup, and one side looked to be slightly weaker when viewing the scene, there would be a huge quantity of people immediately going turncoat. That was because loyalty had never existed here, only the weak having no choice but to attach themselves to the strong, and once an even stronger person emerged, the one from before would no longer have use. Wen Kexing swept a look at the bow and arrow in the hands of the person nearest, raising a brow at Lao Meng. Xuefang hasn't yet been found, and Zhao Jing is still at the mountain's base. With such troubles inside and out, you're still itching to take care of me first. He remained, having no look of surprise or panic at all. Lao Meng's heart was getting increasingly bottomless, and he suddenly felt that the down mountain Zhao Jing and missing Xuefang were both nothing compared to the man in front of him. Right at that moment, a grey-clothed ghost hurriedly barged in. Zhao has brought people in for an attack. Lao Meng hadn't anticipated that Zhao Jing would settle his dilemma so quickly, instinctively sensing that something was off, yet having no time to think deeply on it. It was instead Wen Kexing who dragged out his voice, rueful, and with a lot of schadenfreude. Oh, how awful! Is this not a fire burning the brows? Lao Meng scowled viciously, took in a deep breath, and waved his hand. The archers of the innermost surrounding layer looked at each other, then slowly lowered their arrows that had been aimed for Wen Kexing. Lao Meng cupped his hands at him, using the same deferential tone as ever. Valley Master, now that the valley has reached this plight, I believe that we should both take a step back and resolve the newcomers. We'll discuss this later, yes. Deal with the outsiders first, continue wrangling later. Lao Meng was worthy of being a bad egg, as once he had torn off his face, he would do away with sham politeness and just be forthcoming. Wen Kexing crossed his arms over his chest, looking as gentle as a spring breeze. I'm a general that's fallen in rank to a prisoner of war. What else can I possibly say? The corner of the other's eye twitched. With a motion of his hand, he made a path. If you please, Valley Master. Yep, I hadn't senselessly gone to get mixed up with them, as he wasn't interested. All he did was place Gu Xiang on his horse's back, steering the horse, bearing Dragon's back, and holding the small jar while he slowly went in the opposite direction. After a fair amount of time, she woke up. Without shifting, she got up on her own, dazed for a minute, then turned to lay her back on the horse. Gazing at the sky, the horse's bumpy steps seemed to make the heavens jolt as well. She stared and stared. Tears dampened the hair at her temples, but she seemed to not feel them. He looked back at her, reining his horse as he found it hard to keep quiet. "Dry your tears." She bit her lip. "I'm not crying," she whispered. Even though she had said that, her tears seemed to be deliberately acting against her. They fell, track after track. She raised her hand and wiped them off, then wiped them once more, but no matter what, she couldn't wipe them clean away, only able to unconsciously rub at them again and again. Yeb I hadn't anything to say to such a young girl to begin with, so he had no idea what to do upon seeing her like this. After a half-day of thought, he said stiffly, "How about we go back and fetch your lover's corpse?" He had been trying to console her, but her tears only fell all the harder. Since that didn't work, he frowned. "Don't cry. Everyone dies, or, what are you thinking of doing?" Goose Yang abruptly sat up, jumped off the horse, then buried her face in her sleeves, as if she was about to suffocate herself to death on them. A while later, she looked back up. "Josu and them are at an inn in the outskirts of Luoyang. Go find him." With that, she turned and left. He got off to stop her. "Where are you going? You can't defeat that guy. I'd advise you to." Not looking back, she stubbornly straightened out her back, then bounded for Fenja Mountain, vanishing without a trace. Yebai subconsciously lifted his hand, placing it upon the tiny red pendant on his chest. Being speechless for a short time, his horse simultaneously got a bit impatient and rubbed against his graying hair, which seemed to only then bring him back to his senses. He sighed, lowered his head to look at the jar, then mounted the horse again. "Ah, Chang Ching. I'll find that unfilial son of yours for you," he said to himself. "Don't worry. I'll have someone bring him home for you, too." End chapter. Faraway Wanderers. Chapter 75, Finale, Part I. Zhao Jing's horse was in the lead as he brought them up Fenja Mountain. "No need to worry, everyone," he shouted. "The evil ghosts are no better than." His voice suddenly trailed off, and he appeared apprehensive as he raised his head to look in Yamahal's direction. He saw a group of ghosts in grey file out. They made no noise when they walked, as if their feet never hit the ground, partitioned by air. Both sides stood solemnly. A ghost-faced banner silently rose, billowing viciously in the wind, the hazy, setting sun dyeing it a blood-like color. A tall, jade-like man donning long, dark red robes stood on the other side. Hands encased inside his spacious sleeves, his head was down, and he had some inattentiveness, as though he was in a daze whilst he viewed something unknown. With a raise of his hand, everyone stopped in their tracks along with Zhao Jing, hemming in on observing the man. Looking at the surroundings, Lao Men was standing a little further in, nearly overlooked by others while the man in red drew in all gazes. Like he had been disturbed, the latter slowly turned around, allowing them to get a vivid view. "It's you!" Zhao Jing cried out. Wen Kexing raised his brow. "Ah, Hero Zhao. It's been a while," he answered softly. He had seen Wen Kexing not just once before this, but on this meeting, he felt like the soul inside the other's shell had been switched out. No matter how he viewed him, he looked odd, making him slightly aghast. Wen Kexing slowly descended the stone stairs, and it seemed like every step forward he took had a compelling pressure. Zhao Jing involuntarily took a step back, thereafter forcing himself to bear with it. You're the... Wen Kexing gave a mn. "My trifling, untalented self is indeed that evil-filled boss of the ghosts that everyone's been talking about," he explained, very understanding of the other's emotions. I hope everybody can forgive me for all that disrespect from before. Zhao Jing had witnessed his moves a few times and knew that his martial arts were decent, yet still wasn't taking such a young man seriously in any way, merely feeling that something was off about this situation. Before he could think deeply on that, however, someone leapt into the air behind him. "You're a bastard just pretending to be powerful," he shouted. With no time to stop him, Zhao Jing only caught sight of that elder being one of Qing Feng's sword sect's Huai generation, Mo Huai Feng. Zhao Jing's thoughts turned around. He knew that because of what had happened with Cao Weining, Mo Huaikong had turned back before the fight. This was Mo Huaiyang scouting for dignity by putting a half hand out, then quietly shrinking back with the intention to observe from a safe spot. Mo Huaifeng didn't care that he was possibly being taken advantage of for being lower in rank. Not being polite with anybody, he drew out his long sword, then went for Wen Kexing like a storm. In front of everyone's eyes, the red-clothed man went down the steps as casually as ever, not dodging, looking as if even the width between each of his steps was invariable. Then, all of a sudden, Mo Huaifeng let out a heart-splitting scream, and his entire body collapsed to one side. When Kexing's hands were still hung parallel to him, the smile he had completely unchanged. Zhao Jing hadn't even seen how he had moved. Mo Huaifeng fell to the ground, his body continuously twitching all over. A couple of grey ghosts standing nearby shifted to encircle him, eager excitement showing on their faces, yet they dared not to move, only peering at Wen Kexing impatiently. The latter inclined his head towards them. "It's already gotten to this point," he said, softly. "Why are you still being polite?" Zhao Jing and the rest didn't understand his implication, at first. In the wake of his command, the ghosts surrounding Mo Huaifeng suddenly shrieked inhumanly, then pounced on the man that was unable to resist like a bunch of children massing together to play with a bug. In no more than a blink of the eye, Mo Huaifeng was torn apart, his entire body cut into pieces. He could not possibly be more dead. Blood sprayed out beautifully, one zhang high. Zhao Jing's pupils shrank. These were actual evil ghosts. At that moment, Wen Kexing was already standing 3 stone steps away from him. Zhao Jing could finally no longer put on a brave front, recoiling one huge step back as he held his weapon horizontal to his chest. You actually dared to. I don't think you understand yet, Hero Zhao," the other began, sounding like a soft breeze and fine rain. "Exit Green Bamboo Ridge, and it's the human world. Upon coming to said world, you must properly act like a human. For instance, if a child suffers bullying by others, you save them. If a beauty is unhappy, you console them. If someone gives food, you give them coin. If you see someone in trouble, you lend a hand. What is all that? It's being human. But, when we're all here, there are no humans. And the act of conducting oneself like one." He stopped, then turned to glance back at the ghosts that had just been stained with blood, yet were still eager to move. Laughing, he stretched out a finger, then wagged it twice before Zhao Jing's eyes. "Contend with us, and you're bound to die, because we don't have elders, children, men, or women. Here, there are only malevolent ghosts that want lives." He coolly raised his hand, lightly stirring his sleeve, and looked at their group condescendingly. "Oh, would you look at that? There hasn't been any visitors to the valley in many years, so I got excited and talked a lot. In what way are you hallowed, Hero Zhao? That one hadn't conducted himself like a human would at all. Do you need me to bring up the reason for that? Tell me, yes, or no." Mo Huaiyang stepped forth, standing abreast of Zhao Jing with an unsightly expression. "Alone, we won't be the opponents of this monster," he whispered into his ear. "We'll act together." Zhao Jing was having trouble getting off the tiger he was riding. His gaze jumped over Wen Kexing to see Lao Meng standing a bit behind the main gate of Yama Hall, along with the cryptic look he had, and inwardly understood the other's likely plan, this was killing two eagles with one arrow. Right now, he no longer had any means of retreat, so he had no choice but to toughen up, let out a roar of fury, and lunge. That was akin to a signal, which the two parties standing opposite received simultaneously. The brawl began. Meanwhile, the scorpion had already teetered around to the other end of Fenja. He looked up to gaze at the rolling, verdant mountains. Beautiful, he mumbled, really beautiful. Fenja Mountain is one of the most stunning views in the human world. What a pity, that this is a prickly beauty that can only be observed from a distance, not played around with. Do you think it looks good? The one he asked was a masked poisonous scorpion beside him, who followed his line of sight, then looked like he had just received some kind of assignment. Yes. The smile on the scorpion's face curved by half. You're really no fun. Yes, the other said again. It was like the guy could only say one word. The scorpion's interest in sightseeing vanished, face cooling down. They should have already set to task. We'll go up now, and be right in time to reap the benefits. My client, Lao Meng, spent a lot of money, so he's waiting to coordinate with me from the inside. Yes, the other said yet again. The scorpion ignored him, beginning to walk forward on his own. The well-trained scorpions immediately followed after. Whether they were a group of real people, or a big bunch of puppets, was practically unknowable. After a period of walking, a gray blur flashed over in front of them. The black-clothed scorpions revealed their hooks, only to be stopped by the scorpion. The ghost craftily swept his eyes around in a circle at the dark crowd, and, likely not having swept to any conclusion, turned to the scorpion. Mr. Impermanence asked me to receive you, Scorpion Master. If you'd please. The scorpion smiled with a half bow. Thanks for your trouble. To be blunt, this was what it was to let a wolf into your own house. The sky gradually darkened. Before Yamahal, reality resembled the unending netherworld, corpses were piling up, shouts and screams rose and fell, and, regardless of whether they were a ghost or a human, no one could wield their personal sense of integrity. As soon as the ruckus had started, none were able to keep a hold on the situation, and even the hiding Lao Meng had quickly gotten dragged into it. When Kexing's dark red robes had now changed to the utmost of bright, his face that could be described as handsome splattered entirely with blood stains. It wasn't clear whether those were from himself or someone else, but he didn't appear to know what exhaustion and pain were, not looking the tiniest bit tense. Using his fingers, he gently wiped off his brow bone, uncovering a pair of eyes whose blacks and whites were in stark contrast. As if he was in some sort of majestic ceremony, he faintly held a crazed, yet at ease smile. It was unknown how long this battle had been fought. Zhao Jing could feel his heart hammering like thunder, wave after wave of blackness coming before his eyes, but he firmly gritted his teeth and bore with it. Then, he caught sight of Wen Kexing's smiling visage, and got a chill, sensing that the man wasn't wanting to kill him immediately. Like a vicious beast catching its tiny prey, he wanted to have fun playing with him before he'd be willing to take a vicious bite. Zhao Jing hollered and threw himself over once again, saber hacking towards Wen Kexing's chest, a wide open, and a wide close, such as how a river would flow into the sea. This was one of his signature moves. The veins in his hands swelled with true chi, looking like they were about to burst. A life-saving gambit, and also a life-toying gambit. It was a strike as exacting as lightning, made with all-out strength and an immense momentum that could cleave mountains and oceans. When Kexing gave a small gasp, seemingly a bit surprised, even with his skill, he couldn't dodge it entirely. Frowning slightly, he could only turn his body to the side to keep his vitals away, then brace himself as he doggedly resisted the blade with the flesh of his shoulder. Its edge cut horizontally into it, and Zhao Jing spat out a mouthful of blood, both in extreme pain and wild joy. However, he could not take a step further to follow it up. When Kexing grasped his saber's blade with both hands, after which a massive force shook Zhao Jing off of it. He stumbled a step back, retreating desperately, but with no real support, he collapsed onto the ground. Before his eyes was darkness. The mountains turned upside down, and there was an incessant rumbling in his ears. A single hand then gripped his throat, and his entire body was lifted upwards. He fought to open his eyes wide, meeting with the other's gaze. "Take a good look at me," he heard Wen Kexing say. "Everyone always says that I look just like my father. Has my appearance gone awry over these years? Or is your conscience so burdened with guilt, you're too afraid to acknowledge it?" Zhao Jing stared at him vacantly for a long time. All of a sudden, he violently began to struggle. Wen Kexing slowly sucked in a breath, then sighed. "You went so long without recognizing me, that I was under the impression that I might have thought wrong, haha. Hero Zhao, 30 years ago, Long Ke and one other bore their sins and fled after witnessing Rong Xian kill his own wife. Madame Rong had passed the key off to that someone. There were only 3 people on scene, then, Madame Rong died, and Long Ke never said who the other one was all the way until his death. Yet, the location of the key was leaked, and it got to the point that a married couple withdrew from Jianghu to live incognito in a small mountain village, terrified, for over 10 years, hiding away from the world, yet unable to hide from the evil ghosts. What went on with that? Zhao Jing only felt bursts of acute pain in his insides. With his throat blocked, it couldn't take in a single breath, and he vainly tried to use his hands to break away Wen Kexing's iron-like fingers, eyes starting to roll up into the back of his head. After he came back from the dead, Rong Xian's personality had greatly changed, Wen Kexing solely lock-eyed. But could that have gotten to the extent that he wouldn't be able to distinguish friend from foe, and ruthlessly kill his own wife and so easily? Even a rabid dog would still recognize its owner, so who did all that, then? Who was it that had interrogated Madame Rong about the arsenal key, then killed her when he had no need of her? Who had escaped in a panic because someone else was coming, and who hid away somewhere secret, knowing everything that had happened? Who was so talentless, that he sold out the whereabouts of Wen Ruyu and his wife? The other was no longer moving. Wen Kexing's eyes were blank. Seemingly unaware of what night it was, he released his hand, allowed the man's body to fall noisily to the ground, then stood there absently for a time. Right then, Mo Huayang decisively snatched this opportunity to launch a sneak attack from behind. Hearing the sound of wind, Wen Kexing startled, forcing himself to set his qi into motion, but Zhao Jing's saber was still stuck in his shoulder, and he couldn't dredge any up. At the same time, a light swish was heard, and a high-flying knife swept over, its strike slanting Mo Huayang's sword away. A monstrous-looking maiden coldly stood before him. "I told you before," she said, dragging her words out, "that I'm going to kill you." Wen Kexing was stunned for a good while. Osyang. Due to that nickname, her ice-cold expression could no longer be maintained, tears falling down it. She slowly turned to him, squeezing out a smile. "You can keep the dowry, master," she whispered. "Brother. Brother Cao, he." After that, her voice choked off, and she flung her head away in order to not look at him, like if she couldn't see him, she wouldn't seem weak, or aggrieved. A scream thereafter sounded through the air. Lao Meng shut his eyes, giving off a relaxed smile that was the scorpion arriving. He knew that his victory was secure. Upon opening his eyes once more, the chilling light in them sharply rose, because right now, Wen Kexing had his back to him. With a light raise of his hand, a cluster of cold glints shot out of his sleeve. Gu Xiang noticed that her eyes were getting stung by something before her tears were yet dry. She suddenly leapt forth and tackled Wen Kexing, the two of them getting thrown down to the ground together. Wen Kexing's eyes went wide. This moment might have been only a single second's time, but to him, it felt as long as a passing eternity. He lifted the hand that he had subconsciously placed on her back when they fell. It was dripping with fresh blood. The girl's entire back looked like something had exploded it open. He nearly believed that he had just been touching bone and viscera. Ah! Xiang. Her head was on his chest. Forcefully lifting it up, she gave him a smile, breath like gossamer. Master, I said I was going to kill him, but that was a bluff. I don't have the skill. Kill him for me, I'm begging you, kill him, for me. He nodded woodenly. Gu Xiang looked pained, and she felt aching, cold all over. It was like all of her warmth was pouring out of her back. She had to hold tightly onto his lapels, like a little girl. It's fine if I die. Brother Cao definitely would have wanted me to live well, but I'm not going to be able to. Master. Wen Kexing covered her head with his bloodied hand. Don't call me master, he said, gentle. Call me Gig. She attempted to force a smile, but failed. No longer obeying her, her limbs began to spasm, and her eyes gradually unfocused. Gig, you have to kill him, for me. Lao Meng, still fearful of Wen Kexing, had immediately retreated when his attack had missed. Wen Kexing slowly got up, laying Gu Xiang's body out flat, then reached up and firmly pulled Zhao Jing's saber out of his shoulder. Half of his body was numb, no strength able to be put into it, but the malevolent chi about him grew even heavier. All right. I'll kill him for you, he said, as if talking to himself. Mo Huayang had noticed that things were inauspicious, and, more slippery than a loach, had since fled. Wen Kexing's gaze swept across the crowd. With his still usable hand, he snatched a ghost in grey. You saw the man with the sword that had just been standing next to Zhao, yes. A gurgling noise came from the ghost's throat as he shakily pointed at a direction. Wen Kexing smiled. Thank you so much. His fingers then pressed in hard, and the ghost's head instantly broke apart into a pile of messy flesh. End chapter.